Welcome to the voice of Bold Business Radio, the show about ways to stay competitive in a changing market, break through business plateaus, and respond to the changing expectations of today's customers. Your host, Jess Dewell, is a rapid growth entrepreneur, consultant, and business advocate with a 20-year track record of business excellence. She candidly discusses how to achieve your growth strategy and realize your company's unfulfilled potential. Now, here's Jess.
You are in the right place for conversations about current needs that we as business leaders face regarding technology, customer expectations, and quickly changing markets. This program is what it means to reach our short-term goals while at the same time increasing our confidence in our long-term positioning. This is program 234, Effective Delivery Models. Zachary Beach is joining me today. He is a coach, mentor, and real estate investor. He has a passion to empower entrepreneurs and business owners to create success. Zach went from being a bartender and personal trainer to expert real estate investor with many deals under his belt and a huge community of people that he is helping achieve their dreams in less than 3 years. Now that says a lot. That says a lot that it doesn't take 10 years or 15 years to make big change in our lives. And so I'm glad, Zach, to welcome you to our show. And we're going to jump right in to our question. Zach, tell us, how effective is your organization's delivery model?
I would say that our business model and our delivery model is extremely effective. In our industry, in the coaching and consulting, especially in the real estate world, there is a huge gap between people that actually are buying products and courses and actually completing transactions and getting deals done and building up their business. So it's been our mission to fill that gap because people get stuck in the middle of that gap and they never complete a deal. And then they just assume that real estate's extremely hard and that it's not meant for them. So our delivery model is a combination of both virtual, which is like our course, and then like our associate programs where we actually fully immerse ourselves with them in the trenches. It's very hands-on, where we're making phone calls, we're calling on both buyers and sellers, we're helping with deal structuring, contracts, absolutely everything. And so our delivery model of full immersion is what is actually changing the industry, in my opinion, which is actually helping people become real estate entrepreneurs and business owners and are getting people out of the corporation. So I think it's a very effective delivery method because we're actually getting results, and that's what matters.
In the end, it is what matters, is the results. So with this, okay, I'm going to repeat and reflect because I want to make sure I have this right because everything else I say is going to be based off of that. So we've got to remove any assumptions I have that might take us and create any confusion, which is the first part is, so you've got this thing that you do, real estate transactions. There's a process for that. And what ends up happening is people want to do that. They want to change gears. They want to become a business owner. They want to be an entrepreneur. They're seeking something, right? Some sort of freedom, whether that's financially or time-wise, some sort of excitement, some sort of passion is driving them there. But then there's this concept of, well, so how do I actually get the skills I need and understand what it takes and be able to know who's already been there to help me out? And those are the two sides. And you've built a process to get from one of those sides to the other of those sides and allow people to have success.
That is absolutely correct. You nailed it right on the head.
Okay. So that's what I always thought. But every once in a while, I will run down a path and somebody's like, no, that's really not it, which of course can change the whole rest of the conversation. So what made you, what was the key point that you found in your family business that was like, there's this place that people need to start and where we're trying to go and nobody's doing that. How did that come about?
So as we were talking off air, we both are huge believers in learning.
Yes.
So I've attended and my family's attended so many events. right? And what you notice when you go to these events, and again, I just speak from like the real estate world or the personal development world, but what you see is a bunch of people on stage, either selling products or delivering a small nugget, which you then need to buy the rest of the system in order to get the entire process. So we just have realized that that gap is just so big between, okay, here's where I am, here's where I want to go, and I need a system in between in order to allow me to get to that finish line. So as we began creating our coaching and consulting business, we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to offer absolute hands-on experience. And we have the ability to, because we are a family business. We have my father-in-law, Chris, my brother-in-law, Nick. We have a fantastic support team. So we can walk somebody through and have the ability, the manpower in order to walk somebody through from the very beginning of their journey when they decide they want to get involved in real estate to actually helping them build a 6-figure, 7-figure business.
Mm-hmm. I like this particular delivery model because I think it goes with everything. I think it pairs with everything from having a widget that goes on a shelf, being an inventor that is trying to go through the process of getting the funding and the adoption, and then of course into stores, and then people who have amazing talent for just being able to support and celebrate with and recognize and just stand beside people that are having a hard time, right? We've got services. And then on top of that, somewhere in there, we've got consultants. And somewhere on top of that, we have businesses that are built around Microsoft. So Microsoft built this thing, and there's this whole ecosystem around Microsoft. Same thing with Google products. Same thing with Infusionsoft, which is a technology product. And we see it most readily in technology because it's the most opportunity to find gaps. So I'm wondering, finding that gap may be like one of those key things to, do we have success in a business or do we not?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. So, talk about finding gaps in the industry, right? That's where innovation is built. That is absolutely where you're able to, actually make a change in somebody's lives, because once you're involved in a certain niche or a certain area, you start to become accustomed to the norms associated with that industry. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we were separating ourselves from the norms. And the norms were telling us that if I wanted to go learn real estate, I'd have to go sit through a seminar that then pitched me to the next seminar, which then pitched me to a $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 product, or a mastermind, which I then had to still go figure out how to do it. Right. So instead, it's, why don't we just put all hands on deck and just make it so the people that we put through our program have the ability to actually accomplish their goal of being a real estate entrepreneur. I think it's because we are a family business that we love the aspect of building a community associated around what we're doing. In that community, like you were saying, that ecosystem. So we're building that community now within the real estate entrepreneurs that is definitely second to none. As you mentioned before, not only do you want to know how to do things, but you also want to be able to celebrate and maybe, if it has to be, fail with a group of people that are all moving in the exact same direction. So it just gives you a sense of belonging as well. And that community is definitely there's a gap in the industry, and really it comes down to community.
We have to do what we're doing, looking for services in our industry to deliver product to make money. We have to do that internally within our organizations, because we can't get comfortable in our own skin. And if people start thinking that they're really comfortable and everything's always okay, when it's not, it's really not.
Yeah, no, I agree. You hit a couple things there. So and we could definitely go down the rabbit hole of working within a family business, as well, as it is a unique aspect within itself. The family business there, I never recommend to people, hey, you should go start a family business. I think it's fantastic. But our family didn't just, we didn't, set out one day and say, we're going to start a family business. What happened was, my father-in-law started a real estate business, which then attracted my brother-in-law. I then decided I didn't want to become a bartender anymore. So I said, hey, let's pair up and see if this works. And then we then created a real estate investment company and a coaching company. And now it just, the pieces now fit. And we're big fans of following the energy. So actually, when I first started, I did something completely different. And when my brother-in-law first started, he did something completely different. And then we all naturally fell into the roles that we are today. And that really has been able to bring us up. But if you don't, get along, or, you don't have the best relationship with your family, definitely don't start a family business. But also you have to have some really key things associated with the family business. Like you have to have extreme open honesty. You got to have a shut off button as well. We used to always joke, and because we actually all used to live next to each other we're in the small area in Newport, Rhode Island, and we actually all lived next to each other. And we'd get home from work and we'd wave to each other and we'd say, hey, how was your day? So it's really important that you have open honesty, because you're always surrounded by money when it comes to business, and that has tearing apart more families and businesses than God knows who knows. And then honestly having a shut off button, because you never want to bring anything negative home. And the positive things, you can certainly relish in, but definitely never bring anything negative home. That way you can still have your family life and still enjoy it.
That was something, hindsight being 2020, my husband and I, our first business was together, and we didn't know how to do anything but work all the time. Our dinner conversations, every time we would travel, our arguments, they were not about things typical people argue about in a marriage, now and again, and not necessarily often, but still those arguments kind of happen. And it was always about business. And that was something that we never figured out. We just decided we would never work together again once that was done. But, some people can do it and they can figure it out. And some people do it and they figure out that they can't. And I call ours totally and completely a success, because we made it through and we made a decision that has benefited us for the next over a decade of being together, and lots of other different businesses and craziness happening. And so we can leave it at the door, and we can share what we want, and we don't have to be up in each other's business all the time, being in the same space in the office and being in the same space that we live, which is tough. It's really tough. Now, speaking of that, okay, it's easy in today's world, whether you're in an organization, whether you're leading a small company or a medium-sized company, whether you're in business for yourself as a true solo entrepreneur, to let work encroach on every single part of your life. And you actually said you have to have the switch to shut off. How did you develop that switch? And how does that actually help you be more productive?
I wish I could tell you that I've developed the switch.
I have not.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking. Help it grow out.
Yeah, I'll do my best. So my wife actually used to work within our business as well. And she still does to a smaller degree, but we're about to have our second child and she's now, working from home. So I can tell you that it's almost relief in such a way that we don't constantly talk about business when I get home as well. But the shut up button, really, it's something that you always need to work on. I definitely have never mastered it, but I would say that you need to definitely block off certain times within your calendar. I'm a huge person when it comes to time management. So I think if you block off times within your own calendar that say, hey, I need to be home by this time and it's family time and we're not talking about anything associated with business until tomorrow. So give yourself that option to do so. But I think it just comes with more of discipline, just like anything else that you need to practice. It's easy to bring stuff home. It's not always easy to not talk about it. So it's discipline.
And I'm coming back to this concept of delivery models, right? We were talking about innovation earlier. And I find this fascinating because there are days, and this happened to me yesterday. I got into a workspace and I was so engrossed in everything, I lost track of time. I looked at my watch and I was a horrible mother in that moment because I was 35 minutes late picking up my son from summer camp. I'm like, wow, this hasn't happened to me in a long time. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to explain this to my kiddo. It's the first time I actually forgot him. But it happens to all of us. And so, creativity and moments of focus really do happen sometimes randomly. And I think when, whether that delivery model, it has to include some thinking time, this concept of reflecting back on how do we get innovative. So what happens when? What happens when we actually get this really focused time and we lose track of time to the detriment of other things? Hopefully not as bad as what I just did. But at the same point in time, timing is everything, isn't it? And when it shows up, how do you grasp onto that if it's that time you've blocked for something else?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I always, because I'm definitely a creative type and I would love to spend, and I tend to spend a majority of the time, not on the tactical things, but in visionary and creating new products and coaching others. That way I can get an in-depth look at what they're doing and bring some creative ideas to the table and some constructive criticisms as well. That I can bring an outside perspective. So I would say that if you are the creative type, then you should have more creative time blocked off for you. That way you could constantly be inside that mindset. And that does kind of come down to time management as well. I like to heavily load my front end of my work week with a lot of tactical things. That way, towards the end of the week, which is where I tend to have a little bit more energy as well, I have a lot more creative time built in there. So that way I can get lost inside that time frame as well. Because like my weeks are, so it's like a lot of front end one-to-one coaching at the beginning and or group coaching in the afternoon. And then the second half of the week is definitely set aside for projects or creating courses or doing some filming. Like today I did a half an hour film on time management because some of the people that in my group coaching needed that. So I love getting lost in that creative space. So I always make sure that there's time at the end of the week in case of emergencies and or additional creative space because I love being there. So I almost want to tell people to get lost in that, but just make sure you got the basics done first. So do the basics at the beginning of the week, and that way the second half of the week you can get really honed in on your creative space.
I like how you created that arc, this arc of work that isn't a certain time every day or isn't, you're not trying to touch everything every day. You're actually recognizing there's this other kind of rhythm that's bigger than the day that you've tapped into. And I think that's huge. For me, as far as remembering the end of summer camp, I set an alarm on my phone.
Yeah, you're going to have to do that.
And it's also at an odd time, right? That's one of those things where I'm like, oh, this is of course the camp. Not only do I find myself in this creative flow space of innovation and creation, but it was a weird, unusual pickup time. So what would normally have been honed into my rhythm was not there. So what do you do when that happens? By the way, that could happen with any sort of execution. That could happen with any sort of launch. That can happen with, even if it was not in one day, but this could be like a culmination of a 6-month long process that turns around and kind of stumbles and fizzles out the door. But that doesn't necessarily mean that when we're talking about business planning around products and services and launching them, that it's actually a fizzle and it's a failure. Sometimes it's just like, well, that's kind of when everything that we didn't see shows up so we can move forward and get it out, right?
Yeah, I agree. Plus, you got to go with the energy of things. So if you got to, number one, you got to appreciate that you're in that moment of creativity where you're losing all understanding of time at that point, because most people are like dying for that. That just reminds you that you're doing the right thing and you're in the right place. You're doing the right business, because most people are sitting there at their 9-to-5 job and staring at the clock the entire time. So the fact that you get to have those moments, that's fantastic. I invite the entire audience to start looking for something that they lose themselves in. And then the easy way to solve that problem is you just got to hire a babysitter to pick them up at 6 o'clock. That way you can be a half an hour late.
Yes, believe me. The solutions are endless. All I have to do is choose one.
Yep.
Actually, you make a really good point, though, is when we are, when we are faced with some things that are different or unusual. And of course, summer camp happens to be what we're in the middle of right now, at least in my household. But, during the school year, it could be somebody got sick. It could be nobody's available to do a pickup. It could be there was a flat tire on the way. There could be a meeting ran long, some sort of other emergency that has to come up. I just got one today, right? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's happening, that's going on, and that gets in the way. And I'm going to say, coming back to this effective delivery model, depending on where we're at in deploying or checking in or running with that, it can really get in the way. And so I'm going to go back to something that you said, Zach, because when I'm thinking about growth and when I'm thinking about sustainability and I'm thinking about the longevity of what we get to do in business when we're ready, is that it's not tactical by day. It's tactical by the course of a week or a month or a quarter, with only tactics being part of that bigger piece. And what does it look like, and how do things fall into place or organize themselves, depending on how you might talk about it. And so, did you ever have a bumpy delivery model?
Yeah, I mean, it's evolution. You should have seen our first video course. I mean, it was done with one of those cameras, and it's going in and out, and it's fuzzy half the time. I mean, you have to start somewhere. So we decided to start, which I feel like that's what most people, you got to just start. That's where most people fail in their businesses. They just never start one. We have some associates or some people that I'm talking to that maybe joined our associate program. I'm just like, you've been sitting on the fence for like 12 months now. It's time to get started. But as far as some bumpiness in our delivery, yeah. I mean, our coaching program compared to other ones is, I guess, fairly new. It's about 5 or 6 years old. So we are constantly evolving and constantly innovating and constantly looking for how to improve the system, improve our hands-on approach, improve our support products, and improve the life of the customer. And to make sure that there's an absolute clear pathway, to make sure that somebody knows, okay, well, if I start by making a call to a seller today that has a potential property, what are the next 10 steps that I have to do in order to make sure that property gets under contract? And if I didn't do it, where did I fail within those steps? So we're always looking to constantly innovate. That's actually one of our core values: constantly innovate and improve. So was the delivery model bumpy? Yes. Is it still bumpy? I would say it's a heck of a lot more smooth than it was before. But as we're improving, things will constantly get better. And it just takes that collective mind from our fantastic community that's actually allowing us to look at ourselves in the mirror and show us, okay, well, maybe we can improve here, we can improve there, and that'll make the process a heck of a lot easier. So, one day it'll be top notch.
You're listening to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. This is program 234, Effective Delivery Models. And our special guest today is Zachary Beach, a coach, mentor, and real estate investor. All right, we have been talking about all kinds of things. Really, when we're talking about delivery model, we have to include our concept of our personal leadership. We have to include the personal leadership of those around us. We have to include, what does our industry need? How are we deciding to grow as a company? And then how do we want to go forward with that growth? And Zach has shared tons of information so far from his hands-on experience growing over the last several years, a smart real estate coach and their real estate transaction business. And now, Zach, as we're coming back to this with delivery models, part of having a delivery model is knowing how you want to grow. And so I'm curious, for smart real estate coach and the whole, as a segment of the business, and maybe the business as a whole, what are the growth areas that you are focused on that you're looking to achieve more in?
Yeah, so our mission is to do 1,500 transactions with our associates by 2022. Mm-hmm. So our constant focus on growing is by helping those individual associates, which an associate to us is a business owner who's locking arms with us and who we're doing deals with in the trenches. So our number one focus is on them and helping them grow their business. As they do more transactions, the company actually grows along with it. And then in order to support the associates that come in there, not only by our family, but we're now certifying coaches of people that have shown and have built their own business. So now they get to input their coaching style for more associates as well. So not only now do you have us, but now you have these certified coaches in this amazing community of people who are all moving in the exact same direction. So the growth of the community, the growth of the new coaches, and the personal growth of the family is what is going to constantly continue to drive this business forward.
That's fantastic. I hear, market penetration, and I hear market development as being, who your market is and the people you are serving and everything that you deliver and everything that continues to grow. And even the business mission is about them, that particular segment. Mm-hmm. And that makes it really interesting because, so then in your case, a service being provided to individuals and companies that are going down this path, do you feel like you're providing those bumpers in the bowling alley so they're going to hit pins at the end? Or is that what your goal is now for the product delivery piece that's sitting on top of the growth strategy that you have?
That's a good analogy. I like that. We're providing the stability and the foresight for each and every person that comes in with these goals. So you get somebody that comes in and they say, I want to build $1 million real estate business, or I want to build a nice retirement fund because I'm getting older and I'm getting close to retirement. I'm looking to get out of the corporate world and have some freedom and chase my entrepreneurial dreams. So they have these goals, and that could be the pins right there. And then, so they come in, they dive into, say, our course, which will give them all of the tools that they need in order to accomplish it. And then once they join, say, our associate programs, now, yes, we are the bumpers and we're providing them really to make sure that they actually accomplish their goals if they continue to roll down the bowling alley. Now, that's the important thing is we can be the bumpers as they go through, but if they don't continue to roll down the bowling alley, then there's nothing we can do. We can't push them. What we can do is we can certainly keep you on track and help you accomplish those goals. As long as you have the mindset that just keep rolling along.
Keep rolling along. Keep rolling along. And I know we've talked about this before, whether it's product delivery, whether it's strategic planning, and even in review, especially for you and your role and your company, you do a lot with automation. And so with people being your delivery model, right? Your delivery model is delivering content and ideas to help people keep their momentum as they're rolling along, and the bumpers so they don't stray too far on the outside, so they can get to that end and hit a pin or close a deal, right? How much automation is too much automation? Have you run into some problems with that?
Yeah, well, I believe that there's a fine line between automation and human interaction. I think you need both in this type of industry. I think people try to sway too much towards automation, and that takes away the person feel. And we're in real estate. I mean, so we're in along with most businesses. I mean, you're in a people-to-people business. You just happen to sell a medium. So we just happen to sell a medium of real estate in order to accomplish our goals. Or we happen to sell a medium of content and consulting and coaching and advising in order to provide that medium. So, but not only do we provide the content to make sure they stay on track, I mean, we'll literally grab them by the hand and walk them down that path. If they're focused and they're determined and they want to reach their goal, then like I always tell people, we will run with you. We have associates that they come into the business and they hit the ground running. So I'm more than happy to run with them. I'm training for a half marathon right now, so I'll run with anybody that wants to come through. But if they want to walk and they say they have a job right now and they're in a position where they're in transition and they can only dedicate a small portion of their time to business, to creating a new business, then we'll walk with you as well. So I think automation should be delivered and used where human interaction is not needed or it's duplicated. So we shouldn't so we're both in consulting. So if somebody asks me a question that's a commonly asked question, if I tape a video for it, I can just send them the video each and every time. We don't have to have this same conversation. But if it's a higher level, like let's say somebody has a more personal problem or a more personal situation that we need to go over, then that shouldn't be automated. You shouldn't treat them as if they're a robot as well. It needs some hands-on care. So I think there's a fine balance between both, especially in the industry when it comes to content consulting, advising, because we're in the business of people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. People are creating the results, and the results are coming from the way that the people are interacting with each other. And so wherever there's fear, wherever there's potential, wherever there's support, wherever there's encouragement, all of those things come into play. And recognizing that for not only the people being served, but also for the people who are all interested and all driven to improve the entire company. I mean, that's actually a key piece that I unfortunately see in automation, is that while there is benefit to having the lowest common denominator technologically needed in a role, leaving it there is another place where a lot of companies are leaving money on the table because they're not allowing the people who are choosing to come to work every day to participate and be involved, to actually be involved. And the opportunity for new product ideas, expanded product ideas, ways to better serve customers, or somebody that's finding those commonly asked questions, all of those things, you're right, they do play a role. And how everybody shows up to work together and what's encouraged when everybody shows up to work together really makes a difference.
Yeah, we're in a place in history right now where automation should be used for very low-level jobs, something, again, that's very repetitive, something that you don't need the human brain to think of, that you don't need that personal touch. We're in a position where people now should be at these higher-level positions where they get to use their mind. I mean, that's where we're trending. We're in a position where we need to have more visionaries, more people that are tactical, that can handle larger tasks, and then the rest of it should be automated. But let's not get rid of the human touch associated with business. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there was two different views on it. One guy was very, very about automation, and he said that he was going to take away like the one-to-one coaching or one-to-one meetings associated with his employees, and he was going to do it by them just by using a bot, basically, and they had to report to the bot, and then the bot would then give them feedback based upon what they did. And the other guy, the other view was, no, you can't take away that personal touch to that. We can't over-automate, because the one-to-one coaching scenario is so big when it comes to personal development that you need to have that open and honest conversation to find out what's working, what's not, and getting the person's insight from the front lines. But not only that, but you need to be able to coach these people in order to develop them to the next level. And then we can start automating things at the lower tactical levels again.
I couldn't agree more. And I find that bot thing very interesting. It makes and it makes me wonder, are the positions that person is using this bot for, is that a set of jobs, a set of roles that, and of course I know nothing about this, so I'm only speculating here, that will eventually also be automated because they are so low level. And then the question becomes, so what are the roles that come next? Because those people have so much experience. So how do you leverage what you have and give them I'm going to call it an expanded role, knowing that part of they're going to be able to use more technology to get their job done and have a different relationship with the end result in their role as it changes. Plus every, I don't know, I don't even know what the percentages are. For every job that is being replaced by automation, it's something like 5 or 10 jobs is coming down the pipeline that doesn't even exist yet. So this fear of my job being replaced, I struggle with this scarcity mentality that comes out of that, because to me it's like, I get to do something nobody has ever done before. I get to be part of a company that is moving this change forward, and we don't know what it means. But as long as we can figure out how it's exciting and make sure that we're doing what we want to be doing and how we want to be doing it as the market changes, we're going to know how to bring people with us.
Well, I agree. Plus you get to, especially if you have that growth mentality or that growth mindset, then as the automation, comes from underneath you, you then get to move to the next level, which is more exciting.
Yeah.
I think if you're not growing, then you're dying. That's 100% my point of view, because we should all be expanding our minds and expanding and reaching for something that's much higher than us. And if what's going to get us there is some automation and some some things that are going to be taken away from technology, then I'm more than happy to step upon it.
And our infrastructure can change too. And this is in every kind of business. And depending on the size, we depend on, depending on the size of the business and the amount and the control that's needed for whatever reason, our infrastructure matters too in terms of product delivery and our growth strategy. So combine the two together, what do we need? Do we need a completely enclosed, secure system? Can we use a combination of paid and closed and open source and open supported technologies to make what we want, the shape we want to have, the impact we want to the end to the end user, whether that's a company or an individual? And I find that part fascinating, because I see companies that are like, well, I go into companies that are, they might be 150 people, and they're like, we have a closed system and we keep finding all of these people figuring out how to shortcut their jobs, and they're using all this technology that we haven't approved. Okay. I'm like, well, can you approve it? That's my my first question is, so why are they using it and can you approve it? And if the answer is it's a really good reason, or they just haven't bought into another tool, so there's really not a good reason, that's a different discussion than if it needs to be closed. So how does it get brought into this for security? Usually there's some sort of security issues or relationships that they're trying to build with certain strategic vendor partners. And so I always find that fascinating, because people get worried. Well, now we have to worry about what's in or out of our network. And they feel like it takes away from their productivity. And I would agree to that to an extent, but we've got to ask different questions. So I guess here where I'm going, whatever our constraints are with our infrastructure and our technology, are we asking the right questions to really evaluate, are we using the right thing at the right time? Is what we've been using still the right thing at this time?
Yeah, we come across this quite often because there's this thing called shiny object syndrome. Yeah, and we all got it. So it's important.
Yeah.
It's important before you bring in something additional that you check it against your process, and does it make it easier, or are you just substituting for the exact same product and now you have to relearn how to use this other product? So I think it's important that you always take a look at, am I having shiny object syndrome? Do my processes that I have in place already, suffice? And if they don't, then it's worth taking a look at new technology. Now, we actually we open this up to our community of real estate investors all the time. I think that's why we're able to innovate so rapidly at this stage of the game. It's because we have we have like these betas that are going on, because we show our associates and our students what we do, how, and it's worked. but it doesn't mean that you can't take that works right now and then start playing on the side in order to see what we can come up that's innovative and to make the process better. So within the community, we've actually had multiple people use different technologies and give us feedback. And now we're actually beginning to increase or to change our model, slightly each time. That way it's not overwhelming, but we're able to build it out now. So now when we originally started, it was like a 90-day process of like, okay, you need to do from A to B in 90 days and you can start moving your way through the business. But now we've accumulated and created multiple events now that we can now show somebody what their business is going to look like in a year or 2 years from now if they continue to do A, B, and C. And then we have some stepping of like, okay, well, you mastered the personal side of business. Now let's take a look at some things to make you more efficient in time management, because you're taking on more of the business now as a solopreneur, and now you're bringing on a virtual assistant, and then you bring on a regular assistant, or maybe you have assistants in-house, and now maybe you're bringing on some employees. So now how do we automate in between and start bringing in some new technology that can allow you to scale that business because you've already mastered the original people skills. So now we can start utilizing some technology. So I would say to that company that you were talking about, and I don't know much about those closed companies, that's out of my area, but I would say look to your employees, look to your community, and allow them to do some experimenting, because obviously if they're on the front lines and they're figuring out ways to really life hack by using these certain things in order to make their job easier, well, I think you need to start looking at them and say, well, what are they doing that's right? And how can we improve our business? Because usually you get your best information from either your customers or your employees.
If they're using a tool that is unauthorized when authorized technology is necessary, and the function of the tool that's being used is redundant to something that's already included in some sort of a package, there's a different question to ask. Why did they go get a different tool? Why, regardless, why did they go get a different tool? And by the way, I have no problem with rogue technology, is what I call it. Like, oh, those people are using rogue technology. There's so much opportunity here, because there's questions to be asked. And it comes down to communication between people. Usually they don't know about the technology. They weren't asked about the technology. In fact, the technology that was chosen that does what the outcome is the same, it actually is more cumbersome or takes more time, and it's functionally impossible to do what needs to be done the way this other technology needs to do it, based off of the time available to get the job done, right? I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that this comes up. So I love rogue technology, because we get to have conversations like, oh, right, do you know the reason? Are you willing to explore that? Can you hear what that means? Because they're all opportunities for growth.
Yeah, that just brings you back to the actual advising or the coaching or management aspect of those people's jobs, like the higher level management. Is there the coaching approach or their management approach is not including asking people the correct questions like you were alluding to. There's a fantastic book called The Weekly Coaching Conversation by Brian. Yeah. So if you're just managing people, then you're really not getting you're not actually helping them personally develop, which means that your company is not going to always continue to grow and succeed. And eventually some of your major talent will eventually leave. Yep. For the audience, it really is stemming from the coaches or the managers are not communicating properly with their employees, or that this can relate to any single business. Make sure that you're having open, honest conversations, and you're having those conversations because you want to help them improve. It's not because you're reprimanding them for not using the right technology. As you alluded to, like, ask them, what's going on? Why aren't you using our stuff? Is that not working properly? Is there another function or is there another way around this that we can use the technology you already have? Exactly. Why are you doing that? And could you tell me and give me some insight? That way I can bring it back to, say, the CEO and say, hey, we need to probably make a massive change within the organization. It's just like if you do an individual consulting or coaching, you have to ask questions. You have to actually have the people's the people's end goals in mind, because all those employees we're trying to do is do their job more efficiently and better. But if you're just trying to control them, then you're not getting that. You're not going to get the end result that everybody wants.
Ooh, yes. Okay, I'm writing that down. Yeah, we it's so true. And we started talking about delivery models. We've worked in some growth and some strategies for growth because they are tied together. Delivering a product in such a way that allows the company to grow. I don't know if they're mutually exclusive. They could be. I think they're better together. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Unless if you're a peanut butter and jelly person, might have totally made an assumption there. You like peanut butter and jelly?
Anything with peanut butter, really. I'm good.
Me too. But you know what I did not like? Okay, now we're totally on a tangent. I did not like peanut butter and jelly Reese's peanut butter cups. I thought that was not cool.
A little too much.
Little too much. I wanted more peanut butter on my peanut butter cup. Not jelly added to that peanut butter cup. Anyway.
Peanut butter and chocolate. Yeah, we got as much peanut butter and chocolate as possible.
Yes, always. Always. So what makes it bold, Zach? What makes it bold to take the time to think about and to develop an effective delivery model?
Well, your delivery model is really your very beginning process of you with all of your customers. I think it's, as you were talking about, they're not like your delivery model is not exclusive from pretty much anything in the business. It is 100% incorporated because it's the front lines of your business. So like when we teach our associates, it starts from the beginning. When we bring in new customers, it starts from the very beginning, which is we're doing things virtually. We're helping you in the trenches, getting hands-on at one aspect of the business. And then that is going to then bring you into the community, and then you're going to know what to expect. So from the beginning of the delivery model, the customer now is going through an entire process which becomes normal for them within the community. And that way they know exactly what to expect, and they know exactly that they're going to get the end results that they want. So it's extremely bold, because when you're looking to make a delivery model and you're looking to confirm your delivery model, you have to really think of the entire journey that your customer is going to take, because that's the very beginning of their journey.
You will find all program notes at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com/P234. That is voiceofboldbusiness.com/P234. You can also search the site for Zachary Beach. You can also search the site for the title of this program, Effective Delivery Models. Use hashtag VBB Radio to keep this conversation going. Tell us what you think. Share with us your story. It's through our collective voice that defines what it means to be an effective leader today. You've listened. Now, rate this program on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or whichever platform you are listening to us from. Share with us and think about this question: how effective is your organization's delivery model?
The Voice of Bold Business Radio gives you insights about how to achieve your company's growth strategy. When you aren't seeing the growth results you want, it's time to get an outside perspective. To discuss your specific situation around growth strategy, work with us. Visit voiceofboldbusiness.com and click Find Out More. Special thanks to the Scott Treatment for technical production. Thank you for joining us.